Let me tell you about this absolute gem I stumbled upon on Craigslist, a 1969 Cadillac DeVille convertible that's currently up for grabs at $12,000. This beauty is rocking a massive 472 CI V8 engine and has only 65,657 miles on the clock. Can you believe it? Now, I gotta be real with you guys. This Caddy isn't perfect, but it's got so much going for it. The seller's being straight up about the convertible top needing replacement. But hey, that's just an opportunity to make it your own, right? The interior, though? Mint condition, baby. This DeVille is all about that smooth cruising life. Power windows, power convertible top, and most of the mechanical bits are working like a charm. The windshield wipers are taking a little siesta, but who needs them when you're cruising in style? Under the hood, this beast purrs like a kitten. The power steering, brakes, and acceleration are all on point. The only recent work needed was a new alternator and some exhaust tweaks. Nothing major for a classic like this. Those original 15 wheels with polished Cadillac crest covers, they're a sight to behold. And don't even get me started on those Vogue tire wide-track touring tires. They're the perfect finishing touch. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This car's got some quirks. But for $12,000, you're getting a piece of American automotive history that still runs and drives effortlessly. It's got a clean Kentucky title, and it's just waiting for someone to give it the love it deserves. So what do you say? Ready to cruise the streets in true 60s luxury? This DeVille's calling your name. 2. We're taking a look at a real piece of American muscle car history. A 1973 Dodge Dart Swinger that's up for grabs at $6,950. This green machine has been around the block a few times, with the odometer showing 96,000 miles. But don't let that fool you. It's actually rolled over, so we're talking about a well-seasoned ride here. Now let's be real. This Dart isn't a showroom queen, but it's got a lot going for it. The seller's being upfront about its condition, which I appreciate. It's rocking that classic 225 slant 6 engine, paired with an automatic transmission, so you know it's got some pep in its step. The power steering will make cruising a breeze, but keep in mind you'll be working those manual brakes. One of the best things about this Dart is its reliability. The seller says it starts, runs, and drives without a hitch, which is pretty impressive for a car pushing 50 years old. They've done some work to keep it roadworthy too, like repacking the front wheel bearings and putting in newer upholstery. Now, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There's some older bodywork behind the rear wheel openings that you might want to address. The dash pad is cracked, but the good news is the seller's throwing in a used replacement. They're also including some miscellaneous spare parts, which could come in handy for future repairs or customization. What I really like about this Dart is its potential. It's got solid floors and trunk, which is a big deal for a car of this age. With some TLC, you could really make this Swinger shine. Plus, with its clean title, you won't have any headaches when it comes to paperwork. So, if you're looking for a classic Mopar that's ready to cruise and has plenty of room for improvement, this '73 Dart Swinger might just be your ticket. It's not perfect, but it's honest. And at $6,950, it could be a great starting point for your next project or a fun daily driver with some vintage flair. What do you think? Ready to take this green machine for a spin? 3. We're checking out a real classic, a 1976 Oldsmobile Cutlass that's up for grabs at $5,500. This blue beauty is packing a 350 rocket engine under the hood, paired with a turbo transmission, making it a true representative of that 70s muscle car era. Now let's be honest here, this Cutlass isn't perfect, but it's got a lot going for it. The seller's being upfront about its condition, which I always appreciate. With 87,000 miles on the clock, it's seen its fair share of road. But that's not bad for a car pushing 50 years old. One of the best things about this Olds is that everything on it works. That's right, all the locks, keys, and features are functioning, which is pretty impressive for a car of this vintage. It's got a clean title too, so no worries there. The body's in good shape with no dents, which is a big plus. However, the seller does mention it needs a paint job. So if you're looking for a project car or something you can put your own stamp on, this could be a great opportunity. Inside, you've got that classic 70s interior, complete with a 110 mph speedometer on the dash. It's a real-time capsule. Now, I've got to be straight with you. At this price point and age, you're likely looking at a car that might need some TLC in other areas. While the seller doesn't mention any mechanical issues, it's always wise to expect some work with a classic car like this. But here's the thing. For $5,500, you're getting a solid piece of American automotive history. The Oldsmobile Cutlass was a popular model in its day, and this 76 with its rocket V8 represents a great era for muscle cars. So, what do you think? Are you ready to cruise in this blue Cutlass? It might need a fresh coat of paint and possibly some other touches, but with everything working and that powerful V8 under the hood, it could be a fantastic daily driver or a great starting point for a restoration project. This Olds is just waiting for someone to give it a new lease on life. 4. We're looking at a real gem. A 1964 1.2 Plymouth Barracuda that's currently up for grabs at $12,500. This isn't just any Barracuda. We're talking about a one-owner car, which is pretty rare for a vehicle pushing 60 years old. Now let's get straight to the facts. This Barracuda is packing a V8 273 engine under the hood, paired with an automatic transmission. That's a solid powertrain for this classic muscle car. The seller mentions it's a Valiant, likely meant Valiant, which is correct as the first-gen Barracuda was based on the Valiant platform. One of the most intriguing aspects of this car is its original interior. For a vehicle of this age, having the original interior intact is a big deal for collectors and enthusiasts alike. It gives you a genuine feel of what these cars were like when they rolled off the assembly line back in '64. The seller is pretty tight-lipped about the car's condition, which is something to consider. They haven't mentioned any specific issues, but they also haven't provided many details about its current state or any restoration work that might have been done. With a car this old, it's safe to assume it might need some TLC, even if it's been well maintained. It's worth noting that the seller is only interested in serious inquiries and won't respond to texts or emails. This suggests they're looking for committed buyers who are genuinely interested in this piece of automotive history. The asking price of $12,500 puts this Barracuda in an interesting spot. It's not cheap, but for a one-owner, 64 1.2 Barracuda, with its original interior, it could be a good deal depending on its overall condition. Remember, this is one of the earliest Barracudas ever made. These cars marked Plymouth's entry into the pony car market, beating the Ford Mustang to showrooms by 2 weeks. That makes this not just a cool car, but a significant piece of automotive history. So, what do you think? Are you ready to dive into this classic Barracuda? It might need some work and you'll want to inspect it thoroughly, but for the right enthusiast, this could be a fantastic find. Just remember, pick up the phone if you're serious. No texts or emails for this seller. 5. We're checking out a real piece of American muscle, a 1968 Mercury Cougar that's up for grabs at $9,000. This blue beauty has quite a story behind it, and I've got to say, it's a pretty interesting one. So this Cougar was bought by the seller back in grade 11, and they've been working on it for 3 years. That's some serious dedication, folks. They've put a lot of work into this car, and it shows. We're talking about a replaced engine, new gas lines, new brake lines, new headers, and new exhaust tips. They even cut out and welded in a new floor, which is no small task. Now, let's be real here. This Cougar isn't perfect, and the seller is upfront about that, which I really appreciate. There's a battery drain issue that needs to be sorted out, and the gas gauge isn't working. These are things you'll want to keep in mind if you're considering this car. Under the hood, we've got a V8 engine, which is paired with an automatic transmission. The odometer shows 68,000 miles, but given the engine replacement, that might not tell the whole story. The title is clean, which is always good news. What I really like about this Cougar is the potential it has. The seller has already done a lot of the heavy lifting with the major repairs and replacements. For someone who's looking to get into classic car ownership without taking on a complete restoration project, this could be a great opportunity. The 1968 Cougar is a fantastic car in its own right. It's got that classic muscle car look with the hidden headlights and the sequential turn signals that make it stand out from the crowd. Plus, it's not as common as some other muscle cars from the era, so you're sure to turn heads when you roll up in this bad boy. At $9,000, it's priced in a range where you could potentially put some more work into it and still come out ahead. Or fix those couple of electrical issues, and you could have a sweet daily driver with some serious vintage cool factor. So, what do you think? Are you ready to pounce on this cougar? It's got its quirks, sure, but it also has a lot of potential. Whether you're looking for a project to finish up or a classic cruiser to hit the streets in, this '68 Cougar could be just the ticket. Just make sure you bring a battery pack and keep an eye on that fuel gauge until you get those issues sorted out. 6. We're taking a look at a real piece of American automotive history, a 1966 Ford Galaxie 500 convertible that's up for grabs at $10,000. Now, I've got to be straight with you folks. This one's a bit of a project, but it's got some serious potential. Let's start with the good stuff. This Galaxie is packing a 390 V8 under the hood, which is a solid power plant for these big cruisers. It's got that classic 60s convertible style that just screams summer nights and drive-in movies. The odometer shows 140,000 miles, but given its age and condition, that's probably not the whole story. Now, I've got to be honest with you. This car needs some work. The seller is upfront about its condition, which I really appreciate. It's been in storage for 15 years, which means it's been protected from the elements, but it also means it's been sitting for a long time. The carburetor needs rebuilding, and the seller straight up says it's not drivable in its current state. It needs a thorough mechanical once-over before you can hit the road. There's also some rust on the driver's rear panel that you'll want to address. But it's not all bad news. The floors and trunk are solid, which is a big deal for a convertible of this age. The interior is in good shape too, which can save you a lot of headaches and money down the line. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This Galaxie needs some TLC, but for the right enthusiast, this could be a fantastic project. The '66 Galaxie 500 convertible is a beautiful car when it's in good shape, and with some work, this one could be a real head-turner. At $10,000, you're not getting a turnkey classic, but you are getting a solid foundation for a restoration. These big Ford convertibles are getting harder to find, especially ones with solid floors and good interiors. So, what do you think? Are you ready to take on this sleeping beauty of a Galaxie? It's going to need some elbow grease, and probably a fair bit of cash to get it roadworthy. But imagine cruising down the highway with the top down in this classic once it's restored. Just remember, you're buying a project here, not a daily driver. At least not yet. But for the right person, this could be the start of an amazing journey with a true American classic. 7. We're checking out a real gem, a 1973 Ford Mustang Fastback that's currently up for grabs at $11,850. Now I've got to tell you, this one's got me pretty excited. Let's dive right in. This black beauty is rocking a 302 V8 engine paired with an automatic transmission, a classic combo that gives you that muscle car grunt with easy cruising. The odometer shows 78,000 miles, which isn't bad at all for a car pushing 50 years old. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The seller describes this Mustang's condition as excellent, which is pretty rare for a car of this vintage. Of course, excellent can mean different things to different people, but it's a promising start. They're not giving us a ton of details, but sometimes less is more, right? One thing that really catches my eye is that this Fastback will be at the Good Guys show in the Loveland vicinity this Friday and Saturday. That tells me the owner is proud enough of this car to show it off, which is always a good sign. The '73 Mustang is an interesting model year. It's the last year of the first-generation Mustang, and these cars have a unique look that sets them apart. The Fastback body style is particularly sought after, giving the car a sleek, sporty profile that still turns heads today. At $11,850, this Mustang is priced in a range that suggests it's in pretty good shape. It's not cheap, but it's not in the stratosphere either. For a well-maintained '73 Fastback, it could be a solid deal. Now, I always like to keep it real with you folks. Even though the seller says it's in excellent condition, with any classic car, you'll want to give it a thorough inspection. Check for any hidden rust, make sure all the electrics are working, and listen carefully to that 302 when it's running. So, what do you think? Are you ready to gallop away in this black Mustang Fastback? It sounds like a great opportunity to own a piece of American muscle car history. Whether you're looking for a sweet weekend cruiser or a potential show car, this '73 Mustang could be just the ticket. And hey, if you're in the Loveland area this weekend, why not swing by the Good Guys show and check it out in person? Just remember, the title's in hand, so if you fall in love, you could be driving home in classic style. 8. We're taking a look at a real blast from the past, a 1963 Ford Falcon that's up for grabs at $6,500. Now let me tell you, this little blue beauty has got some stories to tell. First off, we're looking at a true survivor here. This Falcon has been someone's daily driver for the past 10 years, which is pretty impressive for a car pushing 60 years old. It's packing a straight-six engine under the hood, paired with a manual transmission featuring 3 forward gears on the column. That's right, folks. We're talking about a genuine 3-on-the-tree setup. Now, I've got to be straight with you. This car isn't perfect, but it's got a lot of charm. The seller is upfront about some rust at the rear wheel wells, which is pretty common for these old Falcons. But hey, a little patina adds character, right? The odometer shows 88,000 miles, but given its age and daily driver status, it's hard to say if that's original. What we do know is that the seller says it runs well, which is music to any classic car enthusiast's ears. One thing I really appreciate is the seller's honesty about the transmission. They're only letting good manual transmission drivers take it for a spin. That tells me they care about this car and want to make sure it goes to someone who can handle its vintage quirks. The '63 Falcon is a cool piece of automotive history. It's not as flashy as some of its muscle car cousins, but these compact Fords were incredibly popular in their day for good reason. They're simple, reliable, and have a certain understated cool factor that's hard to beat. At $6,500, you're looking at an affordable entry into classic car ownership. Sure, you might need to address that rust at some point, but you're getting a running, driving piece of 1960s Americana that you can actually use every day if you want to. So, what do you think? Are you ready to step back in time with this '63 Falcon? It might not be the fastest or the fanciest classic out there, but it's got character in spades. Just remember, if you're not comfortable with a manual transmission, especially one on the column, you might want to bring a friend who is for the test drive. This little Ford is looking for an owner who appreciates its vintage charm and doesn't mind a bit of a workout behind the wheel. Could that be you? 9. Let's delve even deeper into this 1974 Chevrolet Corvette Stingray. This particular model year is significant in Corvette history, as it was the last year for the big block engines and the first year for the federally mandated 5 mph rear bumper system. The 1974 model also saw the introduction of aluminum wheels as an option, though we'd need to check if this specific car has them. The L48 350 cubic inch V8 engine in this Corvette was rated at 195 horsepower when new. While that might not sound impressive by today's standards, it was respectable for the mid-'70s when emissions regulations were tightening. The 4-speed manual transmission is a desirable feature, as it allows for a more engaging driving experience and is often preferred by collectors and enthusiasts over the automatic option. With 55,000 original miles, this Corvette has averaged just over 1,100 miles per year since it rolled off the assembly line. This low mileage suggests that the car has been well preserved and likely hasn't been subjected to excessive wear and tear. However, potential buyers should still be prepared for the quirks and maintenance needs that come with any classic vehicle. The white paint, while not original, can be a blessing in disguise. A quality repaint can protect the car's body from corrosion and maintain its value. However, it's always worth checking the quality of the paint job and looking for any signs of underlying body issues that may have been covered up. Inside, the 1974 Corvette would have featured a redesigned instrument panel with a new flesh-tone color scheme. The seats were also revised for improved comfort. It would be interesting to see how well the interior of this particular car has held up over the years. One thing to consider with Corvettes of this era is the potential for vacuum leaks in the headlight system. The 1974 model retained the iconic hidden headlights, which were operated by a vacuum system. These can sometimes be problematic in older cars, so it's worth checking their operation. The seller's mention of available paperwork and records is a significant plus. This documentation can provide valuable insights into the car's maintenance history and help verify its provenance. For collectors, a well-documented classic car is always more desirable. While the asking price of $15,000 seems reasonable for a '74 Corvette in good condition, it's always wise to compare with other similar cars on the market. Factors like originality, condition, and documentation can significantly affect a classic car's value. In conclusion, this 1974 Chevrolet Corvette Stingray represents an interesting opportunity for classic car enthusiasts. It's a piece of American automotive history that can still be driven and enjoyed today. While it may require some care and attention, the reward of owning and driving a classic Corvette could well be worth the effort for the right buyer. 10. Let's talk about this incredible 1975 Pontiac Grand Prix that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist for $15,000. This is not your average classic car find, folks. We're looking at a true time capsule with only 10,000 original miles on the clock. That's right. This beauty has barely been broken in over the past 48 years. The seller states that this Grand Prix is in good condition, and with such low mileage, I'm inclined to believe it. They've just had it serviced, so it's running perfectly. Music to any classic car lover's ears. The brown paint might not be everyone's cup of tea, but it's a quintessential '70s color that really captures the era. Under the hood, you've got a V8 engine, which was the heart and soul of American muscle in the '70s. It's paired with an automatic transmission, making it a comfortable cruiser. Being rear-wheel drive, it'll give you that classic American car driving experience. Now, let's be real here. Even with low mileage, a 48-year-old car is going to have some quirks. The seller encourages potential buyers to check out all the pictures to get a good idea of the car's condition. It's always wise to inspect a classic car thoroughly or have a professional do it before making a purchase. One thing that really stands out is that this Grand Prix is California, plated with registration just paid, and a clean title. For those of you familiar with classic cars, you know how valuable a clean California car can be due to the state's dry climate. At $15,000, this isn't a bargain basement deal, but considering the incredibly low mileage and good condition, it could be a fair price for the right buyer. Remember, cars like this are often more about preservation than restoration. If you're in the market for a well-preserved piece of '70s American automotive history, this 1975 Pontiac Grand Prix could be your ticket. Just remember, the seller wants serious inquiries only, no texts or emails. Just give them a call if you're genuinely interested. As always, when dealing with classic cars, do your homework, ask questions, and if possible, see the car in person before making any decisions. 11. Let me tell you about this absolutely stunning 1975 Cadillac Eldorado convertible that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist for $8,900. This isn't just any old caddy. This beauty has a story to tell. First off, let's talk about the condition. The seller describes it as excellent, and with the same owner since the 1980s, you know it's been loved. This Eldorado is rocking a V8 engine, which was the heart and soul of American luxury in the '70s. With 112,000 miles on the odometer, it's got some experience under its belt, but for a 48-year-old car, that's not bad at all. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The current owner, an 83-year-old Elvis impersonator, has been using this car in parades and events since the '60s. Can you imagine the stories this car could tell if it could talk? It's practically a piece of entertainment history. The convertible top is brand new and fully functional, a big plus for any convertible of this age. It even comes with a parade cover boot, perfect for those sunny day cruises. The interior, while needing a detail, cleans up nicely to a bright white, as the seller demonstrates. Located just 30 minutes from Phoenix, Arizona, this Eldorado has likely benefited from the dry climate, which is great news for the body and undercarriage. The seller is inviting serious buyers to come and see it in person which is always a good sign. Now, let's be real here. At $8,900, this isn't just a car, it's an experience. You're not just buying a classic Cadillac, you're buying a piece of Americana with a unique history. Sure, it might need a bit of TLC in the form of a good detailing, but that's part of the joy of classic car ownership. If you're in the market for a head-turning, story-rich classic that'll make you feel like the king himself, this 1975 Cadillac Eldorado convertible might just be your ticket to ride. Just remember, the seller's not interested in trades, so bring your cash and your best Elvis impression. As always, with any classic car purchase, it's wise to see it in person and maybe even get a professional inspection before making a decision. But if everything checks out, this could be a fantastic addition to any classic car collection. 12. Let's talk about this 1963 Mercury Comet that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist for $6,850. This little piece of automotive history is a real survivor, folks. First off, we're looking at a 4-door model with the 144 cubic inch inline-6 engine, paired with a 2-speed automatic transmission. The seller believes it's got 86,000 original miles, which is pretty impressive for a 60-year-old car. They've described the condition as good, and it seems they've put some work into keeping it roadworthy. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty. The good news is that this Comet has had a lot of recent maintenance. We're talking new brakes, a new carburetor, a tune-up, transmission service with a new filter, new fuel filter, tires, radiator and hoses, and a new muffler and tailpipe. That's a solid list of updates that should keep this classic cruising for a while. But let's be honest, it's not all sunshine and roses. The seller is upfront about some issues. There's some blow-by and exhaust gasket leaks, which might need attention down the line. The car also appears to have been in a front-end collision at some point. The left front fender is red underneath, and the front clip was repainted, though not very well. On the plus side, the seller says it still shines up nicely and there's no serious rust, which is always a concern with cars of this vintage. It's also pretty original, with lots of chrome, though it is a radio delete car. Everything works except the dome light. For the right buyer, this could be a cool project car or a unique daily driver. The seller is even throwing in the original manual and some period-correct items, which is a nice touch for collectors. They're also open to trades for the right classic V8 with a manual transmission, so there's some flexibility there. All in all, this 1963 Mercury Comet isn't perfect, but it's got character. It's a piece of automotive history that you can actually drive and enjoy. Just be prepared to give it some TLC and maybe plan for some cosmetic work if you want it to really shine. At $6,150, it could be a fun entry into classic car ownership for the right enthusiast. As always, if you're seriously interested, go check it out in person and maybe bring along a mechanic for a thorough inspection. 13. Let me tell you about this gem of a 1981 Oldsmobile 98 Regency Coupe that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist for $10,000. This isn't your average 80s car. We're talking about a true time capsule here. First off, the seller has owned this beauty for 35 years and has kept it in storage for most of that time. That's some serious dedication, folks. The odometer shows just 83,000 miles, which is pretty low for a car that's over 4 decades old. Now, let's talk about what's under the hood. This Olds is packing the optional 307 V8 engine, paired with a 4-speed automatic overdrive transmission. That combination should provide a smooth, comfortable ride, exactly what you'd expect from a luxury coupe of this era. The seller describes the condition as excellent, and based on the details provided, it's hard to argue. They claim the body is in excellent condition with no bondo and basically no rust. That's music to any classic car lover's ears. The interior is said to be just as good, which is impressive for a car of this age. But wait, there's more. This Olds is loaded with features that were pretty high-tech for 1981. We're talking power everything: steering, brakes, windows, locks, mirrors, seat, and even the trunk. It's got a gauge package, monitor system, cornering lamps, fiber optics, and tinted glass. The half-vinyl roof with opera lamps adds a touch of classic 80s luxury. Inside, you'll find an AM/FM cassette radio, time to dig out those old mixtapes. A digital clock, air conditioning, tilt wheel, and cruise control. And let's not forget those white wall tires with wire wheel hubcaps. Pure class. Now, it's important to note that while the seller describes the car as original and unrestored, a car that's been in storage for a long time might need some attention to get it road ready. Rubber components, fluids, and other perishables might need replacing. At $10,000, this Oldsmobile 98 Regency isn't cheap, but for the right buyer, it could be a fantastic piece of automotive history. It's a reminder of a time when American luxury cars were all about comfort, style, and presence. If you're in the market for a well-preserved, feature-packed 80s luxury coupe, this Oldsmobile 98 could be just the ticket. As always, if you're seriously interested, it's worth seeing the car in person and maybe getting a professional inspection. 14. Let's talk about this intriguing 1964 Pontiac Parisienne convertible that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist for $10,500. This isn't your everyday classic. We're looking at a piece of Canadian automotive history here. First off, for those who might not know, the Parisienne was Pontiac's flagship model in Canada, sharing the same chassis as the Chevy Impala convertible. That alone makes this a pretty rare find, especially south of the border. Now let's dive into the details. This Parisienne is rocking a 350 cubic inch V8 engine paired with a TH350 automatic transmission, a solid, reliable powertrain that should provide plenty of cruising power. The seller mentions it's a factory bucket seat car, which adds a sporty touch to this full-size convertible. It's also equipped with power steering and brakes, features that make it much more enjoyable to drive by today's standards. The seller describes the condition as good and states that the car runs and drives. However, they're also upfront about the fact that this Pontiac needs some finishing touches. Specifically, it needs a new exhaust system, tires, and a new convertible top. These are not insignificant items, so potential buyers should factor these costs into their budget. It's worth noting that the car is currently located in Edmonton but was last registered in British Columbia. This might mean some extra paperwork for the new owner, depending on where they plan to register it. At $10,500, this Parisienne isn't exactly cheap, especially considering the work it needs. However, for the right enthusiast, this could be a rewarding project. These cars aren't common, and a finished example could be quite valuable. Now let's be real here. This isn't a turnkey classic that you can just buy and cruise. It's going to need some love, time, and money to get it into top shape. But for someone looking for a unique project with ties to Canadian automotive history, this 1964 Pontiac Parisienne convertible could be a great find. As always, if you're seriously interested, it's worth seeing the car in person and getting a professional inspection before making a decision. The seller isn't interested in trades, so bring your cash and your vision for what this classic could become. 15. Let's talk about this 1984 Cadillac Biarritz that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist for $14,000. This isn't your average 80s luxury car. We're looking at a true time capsule here. First off, let's appreciate that this caddy has only 42,000 miles on the clock. That's incredibly low for a car that's nearly 40 years old. The seller describes it as being in excellent condition, and with such low mileage, that's not hard to believe. They even mention that it drives and runs like new, which is music to any classic car lover's ears. Now, for those who might not be familiar, the Biarritz was a high-end trim level for the Eldorado, featuring a stainless steel roof and other luxury touches. This particular model is equipped with a V8 engine, which was typical for Cadillacs of this era. It's paired with an automatic transmission, and interestingly, it's front-wheel drive, a feature that set Cadillac apart from many of its competitors in the 80s. One thing that really stands out is that the seller is offering a Carfax report. This is a great sign, as it allows potential buyers to verify the car's history and mileage. It's not common to find such detailed documentation for cars of this age, so that's definitely a plus. At $14,000, this Cadillac Biarritz isn't cheap, but for a well-maintained, low-mileage example of 80s luxury, it could be a fair price. These cars were built to be comfortable cruisers, and with its excellent condition, this one should be ready to hit the road in style. However, it's always important to be realistic when dealing with classic cars. Even a well-maintained vehicle from 1984 might need some attention to keep it running smoothly. Things like rubber components and other wear items might need replacing due to age, even if they haven't seen much use. If you're in the market for a piece of 80s automotive luxury that stands out from the crowd, this 1984 Cadillac Biarritz could be just the ticket. As always, if you're seriously interested, it's worth seeing the car in person and maybe getting a professional inspection. A test drive would also be crucial to verify the seller's claims about how it runs and drives. 16. Let's talk about this intriguing 1973 Oldsmobile Toronado that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist for just $3,500. This isn't your average classic. We're looking at a piece of automotive history that's been sleeping for nearly 3 decades. First off, let's appreciate that this Toronado is a one-owner car with only 67,000 original miles. That's pretty low mileage for a 50-year-old vehicle. The seller describes it as being in good condition overall. But let's be real. After being stored since 1993, this Olds is going to need some love. Under the hood, you'll find the mighty 455 cubic inch V8 engine, paired with an automatic transmission. What's really cool about the Toronado is that it's front-wheel drive, which was pretty revolutionary for a full-size American car of this era. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. This car has been sitting since 1993. The good news is that the seller has cleaned the gas tank and they say it starts up and moves. That's a great starting point, but let's be honest, you're looking at a project car here. The body has some rust, though the seller says it's not bad. Interior is described as in good condition, which is a plus. One interesting tidbit, the seller mentions they have brand new custom Boyd rims in a box, specifically for this car. That could be a cool addition if you're looking to give this classic a more modern stance. At $3,500, this Toronado is priced as a project car. It's got a clean title and has been on planned non-operation status since 1993, so there are no back fees to worry about. The seller has all the documents, which is great for tracing the car's history. Let's be clear, this isn't a car you're going to drive home and cruise around in right away. It's going to need a thorough going over, probably new fluids all around, and likely some mechanical work to make it roadworthy again. But for the right enthusiast, this could be a rewarding project. The Toronado is a unique piece of GM history, and finding a one-owner example with low miles is pretty rare. If you're in the market for a distinctive classic project car and aren't afraid of putting in some work, this 1973 Oldsmobile Toronado could be a great find. As always, if you're seriously interested, go check it out in person. The seller prefers phone calls, so give them a ring and maybe bring along a mechanic for a thorough inspection. 17. We're diving into a real gem from the golden age of muscle cars, a 1974 Chevrolet Camaro that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist for $6,500. Now, I'll be straight with you, this beauty's seen better days, but don't let that discourage you. This Camaro's got potential written all over it. Let's break it down. We're looking at a white coupe with a clean title and an automatic transmission. Under the hood, you'll find a 1986 Crate 350 V8. Not the original engine, but still a powerhouse. The odometer shows just 11,600 miles, but take that with a grain of salt given its age. Now, I won't sugarcoat it. This Camaro needs some serious TLC. It's been sitting for 30 years before the current owner got their hands on it, and it's currently not running. The carburetor definitely needs a rebuild or replacement, and you'll need to tow it home. But here's the silver lining. It's on a current non-op, so you won't have to worry about registration while you work on it. Inside, you've got some nice seats and a carpet kit. The headliner's in one piece but needs proper installation. The seller's throwing in a bunch of parts, which is always a plus for a restoration project. Look, this Camaro isn't for the faint of heart. It's a project car through and through. But for the right person, this could be an incredible opportunity to breathe new life into a classic piece of American muscle. No smog requirements for a '74 model is a big bonus too. So, if you're up for a challenge and have a passion for bringing old cars back to their former glory, this 1974 Chevy Camaro might just be the project you've been waiting for. It's rough around the edges, but with some elbow grease and dedication, you could have a real head-turner on your hands. What do you say? Ready to rescue this sleeping beauty? 18. We're taking a look at a real gem that's popped up on Craigslist, a 1969 Ford Mustang convertible. And let me tell you, this pony's got some stories to tell. Priced at $14,000, this California-owned beauty is what we'd call a barn-like find. Now, I'll be straight with you. This Mustang isn't ready to hit the road just yet, but boy, does it have potential. Let's break it down. We're looking at a red convertible with an automatic transmission and rear-wheel drive. The odometer shows 50,000 miles, but as with any classic, take that with a grain of salt. The seller claims it's in good condition with a clean title, which is always a plus. Now here's the scoop. This '69 Mustang has been catching some Z's in a garage for a few decades. It did wake up and purr about a year ago, which is a great sign. However, it's been catching some rays in a private lot since then, so it's going to need some TLC. The seller believes the engine is original, which could be a gold mine for you purists out there. However, let's be real. It currently needs a carburetor, so you'll need to arrange a tow to get this beauty home. Look, I won't sugarcoat it. This Mustang is a project car. But for the right person, this could be an incredible opportunity to breathe new life into a classic piece of American muscle. The '69 Mustang is an iconic model, and convertibles are always in demand. So if you've got the skills, the patience, and the passion for bringing old cars back to their former glory, this 1969 Ford Mustang convertible might just be the project you've been dreaming of. It needs work, sure, but imagine cruising down the coast with the top down in this restored beauty. What do you say? Ready to saddle up and take on this pony project? 19. We're diving into a real gem that's popped up on Craigslist, a 1972 Ford Ranchero 500, and let me tell you, this beauty is turning heads at $13,500. Now, I'll be straight with you. This isn't just any Ranchero. We're looking at an original California car with a matching numbers 351 Cleveland V8 under the hood, paired with a C4 3-speed automatic transmission. The odometer shows just 46,925 miles, which the seller believes to be original. That's barely broken in for these old workhorses. Let's talk about condition. The seller claims it's excellent, and from the description, I'm inclined to believe them. The body is described as perfectly straight with no rust or dents. That's a big deal for a 50-year-old vehicle. It's still rocking its original gold glow metallic paint, and the vinyl top is in great shape. The bed looks pristine, like it's never seen a day of work in its life. Inside, things are looking good too. The interior is in good condition, though the dash pad has some cracking. But hey, show me a 50-year-old car without a cracked dash. The seller's added a carpet dash pad cover to keep things tidy. Now, it's not all perfect. The factory soft tonneau bed cover has seen better days. The tires are old, though there's a spare set available. And the heater core leaks. But the sellers addressed that last issue with an underdash heater. Mechanically, this Ranchero sounds solid. It's got a new 2-barrel carb, Petronix ignition, and the AC's been converted to R134. Power disc brakes and power steering make it a breeze to drive, and there's even a trailer hitch if you want to put it to work. Look, I won't sugarcoat it. This is a 50-year-old vehicle, so it's going to need some TLC. But for a classic car enthusiast looking for a unique ride, this '72 Ranchero is a fantastic find. It's got style, it's got power, and it's got potential. Whether you want to keep it as a cool cruiser or turn it into a showstopper, this Ranchero is ready for its next chapter. So, what do you say? Ready to be the next caretaker of this classic piece of American automotive history? 20. We're taking a look at a real gem that's popped up on Craigslist, a 1985 Oldsmobile Cutlass that's turning heads and making waves. Priced at $12,700, this beauty is not just another 80s cruiser, it's a time capsule with some serious upgrades. Let's break it down. We're looking at a black coupe with a clean title and an automatic transmission. Now here's where it gets exciting. Under the hood, you'll find a rebuilt 350 V8 engine paired with a rebuilt transmission. That's right, folks. This Cutlass has got some serious muscle. The seller claims the car is in excellent condition, and from the description, I'm inclined to believe them. With only 42,000 original miles on the odometer, this Cutlass has barely broken a sweat. It's like finding a unicorn in the classic car world. But wait, there's more. This isn't just any Cutlass. It's a top-of-the-line, fully loaded model. We're talking leather interior, a moonroof, and complete factory options. It's like stepping into a time machine set to 1985 luxury. Now let's talk about the upgrades. The seller has gone all out to make sure this Olds is running in tip-top shape. New exhaust, new tires, brakes, coil, and shocks. And that's just the beginning. They claim there are too many new parts to list, which is music to any car enthusiast's ears. But here's the kicker. It comes with a 24-month or 24,000-mile warranty on the engine and transmission. That's peace of mind you don't often get with a classic. Oh, and did I mention it comes with 2 extra sets of wheels and tires? Talk about options. Look, I won't sugarcoat it. This is a 38-year-old car. But from what the seller's saying, it's been treated like royalty. It handles and performs great, which is exactly what you want to hear about a classic like this. So, if you're in the market for a classic 80s cruiser that's been given a new lease on life, this 1985 Oldsmobile Cutlass might just be your ticket to ride. It's got the looks, it's got the power, and it's got the upgrades to keep it running smooth for years to come.